Charlotte, I say we start with you talking about why you thought Mother's Day was a good time to have this conversation. Although I guess it should be obvious to most of us. Happy Mother's Day, everybody on this call that I can see.
Happy Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
Well, I was, I guess it was last weekend because it just occurred to me last weekend. You know, you and I had talked via email or inbox, you know, messenger about launching the book later after the pandemic. You know, everything calms down or whatever, or maybe you were thinking of maybe getting some virtual events together. And at some point last weekend, I'm like, okay, lessons from our mothers and others, and what better time than Mother's Day to release some woman wisdom, some letters from our mothers or whatever. And so that's kind of the inspiration behind it. I was just thinking next weekend is Mother's Day, so that would be a perfect launch for a book that says lessons from my mothers and others.
Great. And you guys know that is kind of, I mean, that's the reason that we did the book, was to capture those lessons from the past, and then to also be able to share them with the women who are behind us. Mm-hmm. And I know, Charlotte, you have sons. Karen has sons and daughters, but Toni and I both have daughters, and I have an older son as well. And even he has already said, "Oh, that's cool. I think I need to do one of those for men." So they do, I think, and will at some point appreciate us trying to capture those lessons for them. Do you want to talk about, Charlotte, kind of the piece that you shared in the book and the lessons and the women who were instrumental in helping you on your journey? You talked a lot about workplace issues and things that you had to learn how to navigate.
Right. Well, as you'll hear later in the story, in my testimony, I've always been a little bit different. I thought it was different. I've always been very, very talkative, or what's the word, gregarious, but I wasn't just bumping gums. I mean, I just had a lot of information to share. You know, I've always been a reader, and so I found out early that people don't always take kindly to others who do things a little bit differently. You know, everybody likes you to, they like you to kind of walk the, you know, straddle the fence. They kind of want you to walk in everybody's path. They don't want you to carve out a path of your own. And I found out early in life that wasn't going to work for me. I was going to have to walk my own walk, you know. Okay. So bumping along the way, I landed at where I met you, Marie. We both landed at the University of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And so in 1985, I went there in 1981 as a student, and then I dropped out and I went to work in the Department of Journalism. That's where I met you. And I left there in 1985 and I ended up in Afro-American Studies. And so after a few months there, our department chair, Dr. Ronald Bailey, brought on a woman. I won't call her a young woman because she wasn't young. She was in her late 40s, and she was not your average student. She came in as a non-traditional student, but she came in to finish up her degree that she had left a long time ago to become a soldier in the Civil Rights Movement. She had been married to Hollis Watkins, who was one of the first song leaders of SNCC. And she was just, let's just say she was well seasoned in who she was as a person. She was a poet. She was I wouldn't say world renowned poet, but she was definitely a nationally known poet and fixture in the Civil Rights Movement. So I was attracted to her because she had these stories about things that had happened to her in Jackson, Mississippi, and on Farris Street, and, you know, whatever. So she helped me she was the first person who actually helped me acknowledge the fact that you are going to have to be who you are in this life. And you're going to have to get used to the fact that other people are they're either going to like it, they're going to gravitate to you, or they're not. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be, your self-esteem has to be at a level where you don't let that bother you. And so over the years, after I did not see, her name was Nio, Barbara Watkins. I didn't see Barbara, but once again after that, she moved to North Carolina and became the director of some cultural arts organization. But so when I moved from Mississippi to Memphis in 1987, I met this young woman named Carol Tate. She worked with my sister at the Congressman Harold Ford's office. And so as Carol and I became friends, we would go over to each other's house and visit, whatever. I met her mother, Dr. Nellie P. Tate. And Dr. Tate, her life was almost parallel to Niall's. Except Dr. Tate was like a modern, well, not a modern day. She was like just another Maya Angelou. She didn't. I'm serious. She didn't write the poetry, but she was eloquent in her speech. She was also active in the civil rights movement there in Memphis, and she went to Brandeis to get her PhD in social work back when she was the only Black student in that department doing that. Wow. So, nevertheless, you can see the parallel here. I was different; these two women were different, and we just kind of gravitated to each other. And so, Dr. Tate kind of just echoed what Niall had told me. You've got to be confident in who you are, because life will hand you up, some pretty salty dishes, but you've got to be able to weather the storm through them, and you've got to have enough confidence in yourself that you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. So that was kind of a piece from the other side, and that's why I think we wanted to call it Lessons from Our Mothers and Others, because even women who are not our, bloodline, women who are not relatives, can really pour into us and can really help us along the journey, as hopefully we do for other women. Karen, I want to bring you in now. Talk about your piece, Trust, in the book, and why you chose that piece. Unmute. There you go.
There we go. Happy Mother's Day, everyone, first of all, on the call. So my piece in terms of trust had to do with actually learning to trust myself along this journey. Trusting that the things that my mom instilled in me, I lost my mom at a very, I would say, it wasn't a young age, but it was a critical age, because I was in my early 30s when I lost my mom. Okay. And raising a family, trying to navigate the salty waters. I like that, Charlotte. I'm going to use that. That people in life throws at you. It was, really hard for me. And my mom was such a big figure in my life and just in our family. She was the glue to our family. And it was hard because I didn't just lose a mom. I lost some relationships along with that with my sisters through her death. And so all of that was just really difficult to navigate for me early on. And I missed my mom tremendously, and I still do. And it took me, it was just a major void. And so, people say, well, you get over it with time, but you don't. And so for me, just the fact that I didn't have my mom, and I didn't have a lot of the others in my life. I had some, but my mom was the type of person where she everybody gravitated to her. And she was the community confidant. I mean, my sisters and I would be like, wow, like, do we not have to share our mom with everybody in the neighborhood? And kind of like you, Toni. But that's just the type of person she was. And we were, she blessed so many people. So for me, I retreated and I just kind of withdrew from people because I always had excess people in my life growing up, and started to question a lot of things about myself, if I'm doing this right, just really not having that mother figure, so to speak into my life at 30 something years old, having, been married with 3 kids. People think, well, you should have it all figured out, but you really don't.
Right.
And because I didn't, and I was a professional career woman and at the pinnacle of my career, had the corporate job and all of that, and the house, the husband, everything looked good, on the outside. And it was very hard for me to really share how much I was really hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, through that process, there was just a lot of things that, happened. And I won't go into a lot of details, but just a lot of things happened in terms of my relationships. But most of all, my relationship with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew something had to change. And I remember, and I guess, there is a other that played a part, because there was a lady that I met that I was doing some work for. And she shared with me, she said, I knew your mom in passing, but I know that she would be really proud of you today. And I'm like, really? She's like, well, I just know she was just so very proud of you, and she would just be really proud of you and the woman that you've become. And she shared some things with me and kind of just spoke into my life. And the things that she said were so profound. And so I took that, and I said, I've got to figure out some things, because I'm too angry, and this is not who I am. This is not what my mother would have wanted for me. And I've got to start figuring out some things. So I sought a coach, because at the time I, had started doing some coaching myself, and I didn't really want to go into therapy or anything, because I didn't want to go through the past junk. That really wasn't my issue. I needed to move forward. Okay. So I sought the services of a coach, and I just through the my career and my profession in pharmaceuticals, I knew a lot of information about the brain and how the brain works, and that you can change your circumstances if you change your thoughts. Mm-hmm. So I started to do a lot of research in terms of just self-help in terms of your thought life, mindset work. What is a growth mindset? And that's what brought me to write what I wrote, but also because I had to really trust and believe in what I knew to be true about my life and my walk with God and my faith. I wanted to not just make it something that was analytical or scientific, because I can be very analytical, but just really show that there's a process to all this, and that your faith really does play a part in this process.
Right.
So that's where was the basis for my piece, mm-hmm. and trust.
And I liked the pieces that both of you wrote, and I think the lessons are such that they are transferable to anybody, because if you worked in a period of time, Charlotte, guess what? There are going to be issues at your job, unless it's just, I haven't found the perfect workplace yet. And Karen, like you said, there are always things, whether it's job or family, raising the kid, all of that, that cause us to question ourselves. And so I so appreciated that you all shared those thoughts, because I know that others of us are having the same experiences or have had those experiences, and you have to find a way to get through it. And it definitely helps to know, look, you are not the only person. You can make it through this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, part of the thought behind the book. Toni, did you want to jump in before I go?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I chose my pieces, Women of Faith and Yes, Jesus Loves Me, and the closing, and the third piece I put in was More Than Enough. The Yes, Jesus Loves Me, guys, is because it is the first little song that I can ever remember learning as a child. So I grew up in this country Baptist church. Okay, I love them. I love them. I go back every time I get a chance. In Mississippi, I go back every time I get a chance, because I learned that little song right there and with my family, and it's been so powerful to me, even as a grown woman, to understand the value of knowing that, yes, Jesus does indeed love me. Okay, regardless of whatever drama I've created for myself or whatever foolishness I may have found myself in, and that has been powerful to me. And so I chose that piece, because I think as women we are often we often get real consumed with the idea of love. It's why there are so many love songs, okay? Because we like to hear about love, talk about love. Charlotte, when we were younger at Ole Miss, I'm sure dreaming about love.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
whether it was a fantasy or reality, okay, we were still thinking about it at some point. And I'm pretty sure that I played wedding with my Barbie doll, so I know I was thinking about love a long time, right? So to have that to stand on as my grounding has just been powerful, as you come to the things in life that all of us come to that can just absolutely shake you to the core. And to understand that regardless of how people may devalue us at work, or people may just not appreciate us for all of who we are, that Jesus does indeed love me. And that's been very, very powerful for me. So I purposely chose to put that poem in there. And then I chose the Woman of Faith piece, quite honestly, because it's true about a lot of the women that I grew up around. So I kind of stole pieces of, the many things that you saw. And I'm sure we all did. Older women showing up at church, faithful, from head to toe in that Sunday hat and shoes and the suit. And that they got a husband that probably ain't the best husband on the street, okay? And yet it never stopped them from showing up. Or they got a kid that's running wild, or they, whatever it is. And their faithfulness. Charlotte, you were talking about the different things that attracted you to the women that you acknowledge. Their faithfulness attracted me, and I wanted to grow. I wanted to grow into that. And I think that's still my goal. Let me say that. That's still my goal. And then More Than Enough was really, I guess, for the generation of women behind me, because I think media messages have been really harsh on our girls and women, and if you play into them, you will start to question, am I this enough? Am I smart enough? Am I whatever it is? And I just think that understanding that first point that I started with, Jesus loves me, so I'm already enough. Okay. So I think understanding whatever is core to your foundation, what's going to hold you steady, and understanding how to go back and rely on that, even with all of the things that come. I think that's been really important. And I wanted to leave that with my daughter and my friends' daughters and my younger cousins and my granddaughter, all of those women that will have to come and learn how to navigate, guys, all the same things that we did.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the message I wanted to share from those pieces.
One thing that that's awesome, Marie. One thing that I think that we tend to lose sight of is that when we're going through the storms or life is just, handing you whatever it is, it's a temporary circumstance.
Absolutely.
And we tend to make permanent decisions based on temporary circumstances.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the things that I really wanted to convey. And so you kind of reminded me of that in my pieces, that, don't lose sight of who you are and whose you are based on your temporary circumstance.
Right. And this too will pass.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant when old people used to say it, because they would be so unbothered by whatever it is, you're upset about that day. And I'm like, this too will pass. Well, I got to get through that pass, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And now I know that to be true.
Yes.
See there?
Mm-hmm. But it takes a while to learn that, because, just imagine in, I won't say high school, but just say middle school, that first love or whatever, you break up, your world is over. You just cannot live,
Yes.
And so you come home and you tell your mom, you tell some old person that they look at you like, baby, please. But you think the world is empty,
Right.
It never occurs to you that what had just happened to you has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
So having to learn that, having to separate different pieces of your life, that's an art to learn, because some grown people some people, I don't think they're grown. Some people of age haven't learned that yet. Everything that happens to them, it flows all the way through their life. And you have to realize that, because this thing happened, it has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with what's going on over here. Right. So sometimes you have to say, okay, I'm going to shut this down. Then you start open this door. You shut that door, you open this door. And you have to live your life like that, Right. This too shall pass.
Exactly. I think that's one of the great things I've learned about women too is, guys, we can go into any situation that makes us a caterpillar and come out looking like the prettiest butterfly you've ever seen. Okay.
Say it. Yes. Say it. Say it.
Yes. So the resilience.
I don't. Thank God, I don't look like what I've been through.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and
there'll be some places I couldn't get into.
I'll do it. Yeah, and we all do it. I mean, think about how many days you don't feel like going to work, or you have something going on personally that is just really heavy, and we do the hair as best we can, we throw on the stuff, and we go out looking like $1,000,000.
When you said the word different, and then Karen, in your sharing, you said the word different. Marie, in your sharing, the word different came up. I'm going to be vulnerable right about now. That's a word that was assigned to me growing up by I'm going to say my peers. Of course, as a young girl, I always thought they were the friends. But whenever I was described, if you will, by someone, I was always different. My speech pattern, the words that they use,
Okay.
the things that I enjoyed doing. And there was a time that I really did re-examine and try to fit into other folks' puzzle boxes,
Mm-hmm.
try to be one of those pieces that would fit the growing up puzzle, if you will. I never fit.
Right.
And the more that I worked at trying to reshape me to fit into their puzzle, I was unhappy.
Right.
I really was. And it wasn't until my best friend, godmother to my daughter, Juanita, has been even till this day. You're talking about a friendship. Yeah, growing up and running, up and around in the neighborhood, what have you, it had always been, like you said, I was enough. The things that I enjoy doing, I was enough. The way that I speak, it was enough. And and the reason why I'm smiling now is I think about the times when other folks that we all knew would on the sidebar, approach Juanita and ask her, why was I so different? I just love it. Juanita would tell them, she's not different. You are. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a memory synapse moment right here. Yes, the sharing of our stories, putting our vulnerabilities in this book that we all came together on. I so enjoy it. I just know that, yes, this is going to be a legacy help to other women. The stories that we share, I truly hope, and I also not only, no, I take that back, not hope, I know that it is a hand up, a hand grabbing to somebody reaching out so that they can go on.
Any final words as we go? Let's start the way we started. Charlotte, final words before we close?
Well, I just want to say that I really enjoyed working on this project. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with more and more people. And I would like to challenge other women to either gather their thoughts, even if they don't engage in a writing project, but to gather their thoughts on where they are in life and how did they get there, who helped them navigate the waters, the troubled waters. It's where because I'm telling you, it's very, very seldom will you look back on your life at 45 and above and nobody has been there for you. Somebody has been there to hold your hand, to give you advice or whatever. And I just want to say again, during my story, You Can Only Be You, Niall Barbara Watkins and Dr. Nellie Tate, they really helped me to understand that it was actually my difference that made me the right person that God sent to fulfill my purpose.
Right.
Because we all have a purpose, and whatever it is that keeps shining in you, regardless of how you feel about it, what other people feel about it, whatever it is, it just keeps coming out, just keep coming up. That thing is related to your purpose and who you are. And you've got to evolve to a level of understanding to where you understand it, and you can project that confidence onto others as to your purpose in life. And so as my final words, I would just like to say that the title of my piece was not my words. It was Dr. Nellie P. Tate's words. And she used to me that day, she had that last conversation with me, the last private conversation I had with her before her passing. And that's what she told me. She said these words to remind me to protect my authenticity at all costs. And she said to me, you can only be you. Everyone else is already taken.
Ha! I love that. I love that. I love that. Karen, closing words from you?
So it's going to be really, I like just the way Charlotte put it. And the only thing that I want to add is just trust in yourself. The keys are within you, and you just need to just trust in yourself.
Okay. So my closing words are, and this is the piece that I felt like I was leaving to the women behind us. You are the cup overflowing, a gushing, drenching waterfall, the manifested hopes and prayers of mothers, grandmothers, aunties, the bridge to the future. You, just as you are today, are who we once were. You are God's vision, and you are more than enough. So I thank you, ladies, for joining the call today. Thank you, Charlotte, for being the impetus behind it, because I'm telling you, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't said this to me. So
glad to be of service.
I certainly appreciate it. And guys, she had by the time we talked. So this is what happens when women support each other. That's what I wanted to say. This is what happens when women support each other. And even more so, this is what happens when women support each other.
Yep.
Okay.
Got mine.
Yay.
Yay.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you all so much, and happy Mother's Day to each of you.
Same to you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.